community call. We hold these calls every other Tuesday, and we used to hold these calls on Discord, but we decided to experiment with X and see how it goes. I'll briefly talk about what we're going to do today and then hand things over to Brave and Hugh, who is joining us from the Nexus Mutual main account today. And we'll get things started with a brief overview of the DeFi market these days. You know, things have been busy, things have been cooking on various ends. And then we'll have Brave recap his highlights from the State of Yields and DeFi report, which gained quite a lot of interest in the past few weeks. And then we'll hear from Hugh about governance updates, and he'll also give us an update from the foundation side of things. We'll review the last week in numbers and ask any open questions to the listeners. And meanwhile, please do interrupt us if you have any questions anywhere. Hugh and Brave will also make sure that we answer any questions throughout the call. So yeah, Brave, your State of DeFi report, how has that idea came about and what are your findings? Please take the stage.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Just want to say for those of you who are new to our community call, my name is BraveNewDeFi, and I am head of community over at Nexus, but I also work in a few other areas within the mutual, one of which is on the product and risk team. And I get a lot of people that ask me about, what yields are like in DeFi, what the risks are, how to get involved, what protocols we have listed. And I go through usually every week and do a review of but what's the available yield in DeFi? I kind of track the market looking at like a baseline rate to see how things are climbing up. A lot of what we looked at last year is we saw that protocol cover sales weren't as robust as they had been in previous years, but we were in a bear market, and that base rate was around 2 or 3%. So there wasn't kind of that push or that incentive for people to deploy capital on chain because you could earn yield off chain in something like in U.S. Treasuries for considerably less risk. So to get that capital that moved off chain back on chain, you kind of want to see that base rate in DeFi climb up over time. So after other people had asked me this, I just thought, well, why don't I just write a report each week and put that out? So the first one I did was a couple weeks ago, and I called it the State of DeFi Yields. And it was so popular when I first put it out just as a post on Twitter that I started publishing it on Mirror, and I published the first one last week. So I thought I'd go through and give an overview, talk about how cover fits into some of these DeFi yield strategies, and just talk about the state of yield within DeFi and kind of give an overview on the community call today. One tool I wanted to highlight too that I've been using is there are some great different yield aggregators that you can find where they kind of give you an overlay of where yield is in DeFi. One of the handy ones I found is a site called vaults.fyi. This is built by the Wallfacer Labs team. And this will give you kind of insight on like yields in Yearn, Aave, Compound, Athena, Hop, a lot of these well-known protocols. And it gives you a good idea of like what the base rate in DeFi is. So when I first started this, the base rate was around maybe like 10% between stables and ETH. Last week, it was creeping up more toward 15%. And looking at it today, the trailing 7-day average APY is closer to like 18%. So it's very clear there's a lot of leverage in the market right now, and people are very bullish on ETH and other crypto native assets. So I highlight that a lot in the report, and that's kind of what I use to figure out what the base rate is in DeFi. Looking at stablecoin yields, a lot of the rates you're going to see pretty much dominated a lot right now by the Aave V2 and Aave V3 markets, as well as some of the Compound V3 markets. Just looking today, for anybody that's using Aave or is looking at yields on there, like the Optimism market, I've noticed has had like significantly high yields. And the SUSD market and the LUSD market on Aave have been really high, but currently the supply APY for SUSD on the Optimism market within Aave V3 is at 97%. So there's some pretty high utilization among SUSD, USDT, USDC, and DAI across a lot of these lending markets. And USDC on Compound V3 is also quite high. In the report I wrote last week, I talked a little bit about the interest rate curve changes that Aave and Compound have made in the last year and the impact that's had on rates. But I mean, you can see it's pretty apparent that there's a lot of people using leverage and there's high utilization in the lending markets. So that's one driver of some of these yields. I talk a bit about LP strategies for stable coins using things like Aerodrome, Velodrome, both of which are X's that are on L2s. Velodrome, of course, is on Optimism, and Aerodrome is on Base. I'm sure everyone's heard about Aerodrome this week with the news about Coinbase taking a position in Aerodrome and being more vocal about that and kind of making that their primary DEX for the Base ecosystem. And I talked a lot about kind of the ETH base rate as well. And so for ETH, the base rate is always going to be essentially staking yield. So liquid staking tokens provide between 3 to 4% a year. But a lot of what we've seen driving yields on ETH have been the liquid restaking protocols. So Eigenlayer with all of the stuff built on top of it, Eigenlayer with their points, EtherFi with their points, Kelp DAO and Renzo and Puffer Finance with their points. So it's like points on points on points, and people are farming these points, and that speculation on what these points are worth is driving a lot of the yields in those strategies, especially with Pendle. So Pendle has been really popular for cover buys here in the last couple of weeks. And the yields there on ETH, I mean, if you put in like ETH from EtherFi and you put that in there, you can get a fixed APY from people who want to strip out the yield tokens. And for those of you who don't know how Pendle works, it's basically a yield stripping protocol. So you put in a yield bearing token and it strips out one side where you get the yield token, which represents the yield being earned on that. In the case of like EtherFi, it's the points that are being accrued. And on the other side, you have that principal token, which is the underlying assets backing the ETH. And so with that, you can put in your ETH, strip out the yield, sell it to somebody, and they'll pay you a fixed APY. Those have been ranging between like 30 and 40%. So on ETH, that's a pretty attractive yield, which is why we've seen more people gravitating over to Pendle. I talk about the growth kind of in the Eigenlayer ecosystem, and I also note that there actually is no yield being produced by those things, and it's all pretty much speculation driven by points. And so I kind of give this broad overview in there about a lot of the protocols. I talk about Gearbox and their leverage strategies. And while I just would say if you haven't used leverage before and you're not familiar with it, probably not a good thing to mess around with. You definitely don't want to wipe out your DeFi yields because you get liquidated. But on the passive side within Gearbox, because there's been such high demand for leverage on ETH mainnet, you can earn like 20% APY on ETH deposits in the passive markets. And so all that being said, there is a lot of yield opportunity out there, but there's also, there are also significant risks depositing into certain protocols in DeFi. I'm sure most people on the call are familiar with the risks if you've heard about Nexus Mutual before, but there are two primary risks, which I always like to just give an overview of. One is the technical risk of putting money into a protocol, and that's the exposure to smart contract risk or external dependencies like bridge infrastructure. And so there could be something like a reentrancy attack, which we saw last year with the actual Viper compiler, which affected some of the Curve liquidity pools. That was a reentrancy attack. That is a pretty well-known attack vector, and that's been plaguing DeFi since, broadly 2020, but that goes all the way back to the DAO hack in 2016. So, there are these risks when you're depositing in that there could be a flaw in the smart contract code that can be exploited and funds can be stolen. So there's that one side, and the other side is the economic risk. There's market risk, which is not something that Nexus covers, but there is the risk of bad debt accruing into an Aave or Compound or any lending market. And this can be caused by severe liquidation failure if liquidations don't occur and bad debt builds up. But bad debt can also build up if liquidations don't occur in a timely fashion. That can create bad debt in one of these markets. There could be a DPEG event, which is not something that we currently cover, but it's something we're exploring. A DPEG event like we saw with UST or USDC. And then Oracle failure or Oracle manipulation attacks. Somebody can try and manipulate the sources for a price feed and drive prices out of whack, which can be used to exploit and drain a lending protocol or a different protocol we've seen in the past. That's what caused the Urine YDAI hack that we covered in 2021. So there's quite a few different kinds of risks, and we could go really deep into the complexity of it, but there's actually a lot of resources in our documentation about that. I'm always happy to answer questions about it. But with protocol cover, you can actually buy coverage and protect against a lot of those main risks. So we cover smart contract, flaws that cause losses due to smart contract code flaws. So essentially hacks and exploits. We cover severe Oracle failure or Oracle manipulation, severe liquidation failure, and we cover losses that occur if there's a governance takeover and funds are taken out of a smart contract. So these are primarily like the largest risks in DeFi. And we've paid out over 18 million in claims to date since the mutual has launched. We've paid out for the Rary Fuse hack in 2022. We paid out for the Euler hack last year. We paid out for some custody events like FTX, Holvanot, Gemini, BlockFi. We paid out for the Cream exploit in 2021, and again the Urine exploit in 2021. And the first hack we ever paid out for was BZX in 2020. So we have paid out claims in the past. We have helped a lot of people recoup their losses so that a hack didn't significantly set them back. But these risks are real, and just last year, 1.7 billion was lost due to hacks, according to Immunifi's report. And just in January and February, there's been almost 190 million lost due to hacks. So while you're deploying funds in this bear market and earning yield, I would highly encourage you to look at protocol cover, look at options to protect your deposits. You can use things like open cover. You can use Nexus Mutual on mainnet if you're a member. But open cover is actually built on top of Nexus Mutual and allows you to buy the same comprehensive coverage, but on an L2. You can buy coverage through open cover on Base, Arbitrum, or Optimism. So you can be deploying capital on L2s where we see a lot of activity shifting due to high transaction fees on mainnet. You can buy coverage and protect your deposit for a fraction of the cost because you're saving a lot on the gas fees. So highly encourage everyone to check that out. The next State of DeFi Yields report is going to come out this Friday. Always happy to take questions on that. You can find that pinned in my profile on Twitter. You can also find it on Mirror. And I can move on and talk about some new listings, but I just thought I'd stop and see if anybody had any questions or any comments they wanted to speak on about the State of DeFi Yields report or anything broader. Okay. If not, I can talk about some of the recent protocol cover listings we've added. In the last couple months, we've added quite a few new listings. So we've added Maverick Protocol, Equilibria, which is built on top of Pendle. It's like the convex to Curve in the Pendle ecosystem. We've launched coverage for NFTPerp, PXETH, Camelot V3, D-Hedge, Gearbox V3, Aerodrome and Velodrome, Hyperliquid, GMX V2, Eigenlayer, and a few others. We'll have a lot more listings coming up. We definitely want to, list new protocols where people are deploying capital, where, users want to purchase protection and protect their deposits for. We definitely want to stay on the edge of things as new things are launching and there's new yield strategies so that we can help make DeFi a safer place to transact and earn in 2024. And again, we've seen a lot of demand for covers related to liquid restaking tokens, as that's where a lot of yield opportunity has been for ETH in the last few weeks. But if there's any protocols that you'd like to buy cover for that aren't listed, just send me a DM or reach out to us on Discord. We're always happy to review protocols for a listing. And we basically do listing reviews and put up new listings every week. So if there's anything that you'd like to see listed, just give me a holler. But yeah, I'm happy to take any questions here. Otherwise, I can turn it back over to Sam.
Thanks, Brave. It's definitely worth a read. If any of the listeners haven't yet checked out Brave's comprehensive and clear report, please do. I think it has a lot of covered alpha in it. And if you have any questions, please do reach out to us. Right now, I want to turn things over to Hugh, who is joining us from the Nexus Mutual main account. Hugh is our CEO, as many of you might know, and he's going to give us a brief update from the foundation team Also, we have a recent proposal up on the forum that wherein Hugh proposes to change the pricing parameter so that it is easier to buy cover. So yeah, Hugh, please take it away. Happy to hear your comments on the market side of things as well.
Hey everyone, thanks Sam and Brave. Yeah, let's go. What's going on the foundation side? Obviously, things are starting to heat up more generally with price or number going up. Always helps. So yeah, lots more interest from our main product, but also a lot of ad hoc or more kind of like tailored deals type stuff going on in the background. So we're responding to those as the foundation team quite a lot. One thing that is interesting, we actually do have some real world coverage out there as well through the retail mutual. They cover some shop owners and stuff in the UK, and so they've always got a few requests about how to increase things and move on from there. So we're also dealing with some of that stuff as well. I guess more on the crypto side, where we're kind of internally testing an update to the UI at the moment, which is pretty exciting. And we're also looking, and we're also in the process of building out and speccing exactly how we can make, I guess, cover buying a lot easier and a lot closer to the kind of, I guess, what I call the primary action. So like where the user actually deposits into DeFi or does something. So make it much easier to integrate cover buys, and not just on L1s, on L2s and stuff as well. So looking at some tech solutions there, which we've got some initial design specs and everything, and so it's looking really positive. So I'm excited to kind of bring that to market over the coming months. So there's quite a lot going on the foundation side when it comes to the sales side, the engineering side, and I guess all the other outside of crypto as well. So I guess lots of things going on there. More broadly, I guess in the markets, obviously things have been when a number go up, everyone wants to everyone's more happy to pay for interest rates to lever up and everything. So a lot of the yields are increasing across the board, as Brave was saying. It's interesting to see all the restaking points and everything go. Obviously, very popular right now. I guess we have to wait and see what happens there. Excited to see when actual AVSs go live on the restaking side of things. I actually think more generally that's a really good opportunity for Nexus, because each of those restaking AVSs is going to have their own slashing conditions on top of the restake Ds. So that applies to the restake Ds. So there can be like slashing coverage products built on for that as well. And I think that's going to be really interesting, because that means there's going to be higher yields and more opportunity for places where I guess the net yield after the cost of cover makes sense, and so that's been a large part of our success. So yeah, so really kind of excited to see how the restaking markets develop over the coming months and years. So yeah, I think I guess it's an exciting time, and the narrative has been shifting a bit recently, so it's always good to see. That's kind of the main stuff on the foundation side of things. On the governance side, so just wanted to give everyone a bit of an update. I put a proposal up, personally put a proposal up on the forum to change one of the pricing parameters. I guess it's a little bit technical, but the way just to very quickly give you an overview, the way we have a dynamic pricing mechanism on chain, and the way that works at the moment is when the stakers are the ones that, or the pool managers, they're the ones that set the price for a particular risk. But when someone buys a cover, the actual price that you can buy subsequent or so like for the next cover, it shoots up, and that's kind of a like auction process, or continuous auction process. It's like a reverse auction. And then the price slowly comes down to the minimum price again, and when someone buys a cover, it ratchets back up and then comes back down. This proposal is to the price per day, or the price decay. And at the moment, 0.5%, which has turned out to be quite slow, especially when you've got a high demand on covers, as we've seen recently. And it's meant that there have been a few instances that prospective cover buyers have had to wait material periods of time, like up to a week, before they can buy cover at a price that they're happy with. And also the people on the other side, the stakers, being happy to sell at a lower price, but the system not being able to clear them. So I think it makes sense to increase the speed, and I'm proposing to increase it from 0.5% a day to 2% a day. This is kind of, I think, better aligns with I guess the speed at which things are moving in a bull market compared to a bear market. So hopefully we can get that updated on chain, and it'll improve the UX of the cover buys. But also we'll see how it goes in terms of actual experience, to see if it needs changing again, if it's too fast, or maybe it needs to be pushed a bit faster. Who knows? So yeah, it's always good to experiment with these things. The current parameter has been there since we launched V2 about a year ago, so it hasn't been updated since then. Yeah, so have a look at that if you want to get into a bit more of the technical detail. Yeah, I guess that's the main stuff from me. Obviously happy to take questions on any of that if you have them.
Thanks, you. If you're interested, definitely check out the discussion on forum.nexusmutual.io. You will find the NMPIP-213 proposal that Hugh just mentioned in detail. And I'm personally looking forward to this vote, which will happen from 12th March to 14th March. And it's going to make it much easier for me to purchase cover in this market. So yeah, definitely check it out. Right now, I want to briefly recap the last week in review, talk about what people purchased cover for. These lists are one of my favorite things. I really like to see the cover purchases of the last week. It kind of shows the market sentiment and also shows what more responsible degens or people in DeFi like to do. And that's also something that I'm quite interested in learning. Without further ado, the last week of February, that started on the 26th of February, we sold about $11 million of cover. With that, we ended February with more than $25 million of cover. And in the last week, members earned more than $75,000 in fees. And the largest cover buys were for Spark. And like Brave mentioned earlier, Pendle has been on the list for some time, so we saw a lot of cover buys for Pendle as well. If you want to check out the full report, please again visit our forum at forum.nexusmutual.io. You can check out all the other week's analysis on there as well. Before closing this call, I want to hand things back to Lee, and Lee will talk about the recent opening, the Dune Wizard role, which we also have posted on the forum. I'm one of the latest additions to the DAO, and it's been a thrill working with the team who is really value-oriented and is redefining the future of risk sharing. So please, Brave, take it away and talk us through the recent opening. I'm sure people would like to share it with their network.
Yeah, I wanted to share a little bit about the Dune Wizard opening within the DAO. Ray, who is the head of the R&D team within the DAO, posted an open position for a Dune Wizard. So the Dune Wizard that we've been working with for a while has just had an increased workload in their existing job, and they've kind of had to transition out of their role as a Dune Wizard working for the DAO. So we're looking for another contributor to help us out managing our Dune dashboards and creating some new Dune dashboards as well. This position, again, is going to be working within the DAO for the R&D team. On the forum, Ray has outlined the role, talk about the responsibilities, the expected hours worked, and the pay rate is competitive, which is correlated to experience. But we put this up last week, and talking to Ray, he said that we've gotten a lot of inbound from this, just from posting it on the jobs channel and Farcaster, sharing it on Twitter, and sharing it within our network, and then posting this on the governance forum. There's been a lot of interest, and Ray said there's been a lot of talented Dune wizards that have applied. If you know anybody who is a talented Dune wizard who is looking for an open role to contribute to a DAO, go ahead and share this with them. I know Ray is going to be doing interviews over the next couple of weeks. Ray estimates that we'll have somebody for this position by the end of March. But yeah, the R&D team has built the existing Dune dashboards that we have. If you're interested in learning about the covers that we're selling, what covers are active, what we're earning in cover fees, split down between ETH and DAI, what the mutual currently has exposure to for protocol cover products or other cover products. All of that is cataloged in detail on our Dune dashboard. So we have a Dune dashboard for Nexus mutual covers, for the capital pool, the assets in the capital pool, ownership within the mutual. We have one for the ratcheting AMM, which launched in November. We've got one for the claims history for the mutual, so you can go in and see historical outcomes on claims. And there's one for NXM staking, so you can see what people are staking and what the different staking pools are staking against, and kind of what the performance is over time in terms of NXM rewards earned and distributed. So there's a lot of information there. There's still a lot more that we'd like to build within within our Dune dashboards and adding some new Dune dashboards. So having somebody who knows their way around Dune spells that can kind of optimize our existing queries and can help us build some new dashboards to kind of increase transparency and make information more accessible to people within the mutual and people who are interested in learning more about the mutual. So I'm definitely looking forward to bringing on another Dune wizard to help build up these dashboards, because I use them every day. I find them to be incredibly helpful. Dune dashboards are like, Dune is my go-to place to look up any metric within DeFi. So whenever that's available, I think it's highly valuable. So again, if you know anybody that would like to contribute as a Dune wizard, feel free to share this job opening with them. I will say on the DAO side that there'll be a few more openings that we'll be sharing in the coming months. So keep an eye on the forum and hop on the next community call. We should have some updates to share there. But otherwise, just keep an eye on Twitter and the governance forum. That's where we'll be posting any openings for the DAO teams. But yeah, so that is my recap on the Dune Wizard role. But again, you can find that posting on the forum under the DAO team updates category.
Thank you, Brave. Before we wrap up the call today, I want to ask if you guys want to bring up anything else that we'd like to touch upon. Hugh, Brave, and all the other listeners. If you have any other questions or topics that you want to raise, please do so now.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, I know we just have a few people on the call right now, but I know JT and Tjark, and I know I've crossed paths with Tomaki before in the past. But I just wanted to know, where are you guys depositing funds in DeFi, or what do you find interesting in DeFi right now? If you'd like to raise your hand and come up and chat with us, that would be great. But I always love hearing what other people are doing in DeFi. No takers?
Maybe next time. Yeah, it's been an exciting couple of weeks, and I'm also looking forward to... Oh, I see Tomoki has raised their hand. I think we have to accept it, Hugh, from the main account. Oh, please go ahead.
He's up here. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, I'm on my computer. I don't usually do Twitter Spaces on my computer, so I hope it works.
Yeah, it's working.
Yeah, I was kind of half listening, but I think what you were asking was if I had any like DeFi, what kind of DeFi positions I was in terms of like Nexus Mutual.
I think just what do you find interesting in DeFi right now? What are you doing in DeFi? It doesn't have to be related to Nexus Mutual. It could just be kind of anything. I'm always curious to hear what people are doing in DeFi.
Yeah, definitely less DeFi for me in terms of like degen stuff. Not as much as like DeFi summer, certainly. So maybe I'm not the right good person to ask, but like I'm in like doing eigenlayer things, liquid restaking tokens, simple things like that. I mean, definitely not simple technically, but
yeah, I don't know. I think the degen route is one that I feel that has to be your full-time job if you're going the degen route, because it's so time consuming to find all of those farms and then do all those things. And again, like there's a high degree of risk if you're actually an on-chain degen. I feel like we use that term pretty casually, but I feel like degens are completely numb to any kind of like loss or feeling.
yeah.
But Eigenlayer, I think is really interesting. I've done some research into Eigenlayer. I think, well, it hasn't really gone live yet, right? It's still kind of in this like pre-launch phase. So they're just kind of onboarding capital. And I mean, they've sucked up, I think it's over like $10 billion in Ether. I'm sure it's more now. But it's been an incredible amount of ETH that they've kind of sucked up. That's going to be validating these different services once they go live. So it'll be really interesting. Any thoughts on risk within Eigenlayer, or what you think is going to happen after Eigenlayer launches?
Man, I think TVL is going to take a hit because I think everyone's obviously excited about the points. So it's going to be interesting to see how it kind of levels out after the couple weeks after it launches, because that APY is going to kind of settle down, and we'll see like where the actual risk-adjusted yield ends up. So it'll be definitely interesting.
Yeah, I think it will too. I've shared this with a lot of people that I know in DeFi, but I find it really interesting that there's all these things built on top already. Like, Ether.5 makes sense to me because it's liquid staking and then they just natively restake. So that model makes sense, but the things like the Kelp DAO and Renzo and Pufferfi are built on top. But they're just kind of like this added layer on top that's also using points to onboard more capital. So because there isn't any yield, it's just been interesting for me that those things have launched on top already when there isn't actually like a working product. So it's been, that to me has kind of been fascinating. The points bonanza has been just really entertaining to watch. But it's also given product market fit to things like Pendle and everything, right? So it's been kind of fascinating to see how people have speculated on points, and it finally gave some of these primitives that have been around for a few years like a really great use case.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I know GT had just messaged me on desktop. Yeah, Tamaki, how did you get audio to work on desktop? I always do it on mobile because I can never get it to work on desktop.
I don't know. I just clicked the button. There is definitely like a lag. Like whenever I click that microphone, it like takes a couple seconds. So it's just working, I guess.
Nice. I'm impressed. I always stuff those things up.
I don't think I've ever seen an option to be able to speak on desktop before. So you might be in like one of those limited regions where they're testing it out.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I was half listening prior, and then I heard you say my name, so I kind of like plugged in really quick, and then just kind of clicked the button, and it worked.
Yeah. Yeah. So JT, I'm not sure if there's a button on desktop that you can click, but if not, we can figure that out for next time. And yeah, but if not, feel free to drop in Discord and stuff and chat with me about what you're doing in DeFi. I'm always interested.
Great. Thanks for sharing your insights, Tamaki, and looking forward to chatting with JT. I want to wrap things up for today now. Thanks everybody for joining us. We're gonna have one of these calls in 2 weeks' time. We'll make sure to spread the word on our socials. It was great chatting with you. We're happy to make DeFi a safer place together. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah.
Bye, everybody. Have a great week.